The bleeding stranger Marcus Kane's blood painted crimson trails across the obsidian stones as he stumbled through the alien canyon. The ambush had come without warning pirates, striking his survey ship in the outer rim, leaving him the sole survivor crash-landed on this forgotten world. His emergency beacon was dead, his supplies scattered, and the twin suns of Kethmorin were setting fast. The canyon walls rose like cathedral spires around him, carved with symbols that seemed to shift in his peripheral vision. Every step sent lightning through his broken ribs, but stopping meant death. The nocturnal predators of this world hunted by scent, and his blood was a dinner bell ringing across the wasteland. That's when he saw it, a structure ahead, ancient and imposing. Massive stone pillars formed a circle around what looked like a tomb, its entrance sealed with crystalline barriers that hummed with dormant energy. Warning totems lined the approach, their alien script unreadable, but their meaning universal. Stay away. Death waits here. Marcus had studied enough synarchaeology to recognize a sacred site when he saw one. Under normal circumstances, he'd never violate such a place. But as something howled in the distance, something large and hungry normal, circumstances seemed like a luxury he couldn't afford. The barriers recognized his approach, flickering but not activating. Perhaps they only responded to the local species. Inside, the tomb was vast and circular, its walls covered in murals depicting a warrior goddess with flowing hair and eyes like molten gold. At the center lay a raised dais where a magnificent spear stood embedded in a block of starstone. The weapon was beautiful and terrible, its shaft carved from some dark metal that seemed to absorb light, its blade wreathed in thorns that glowed with their own inner fire. Even from across the chamber, Marcus could feel its presence like a weight against his soul. He collapsed beside the dais, pressing his back against the cool stone. The wound in his side was worse than he'd thought, blood seeping steadily through his makeshift bandage. His vision blurred as exhaustion and blood loss took their toll. That's when the howling grew closer, echoing off the canyon walls. Multiple voices now, a pack converging on his position. The barriers might keep them out, or they might not. Marcus had no way of knowing how long the ancient technology would hold. His gaze fell on the spear again, and for a moment he could have sworn it pulsed in response to his heartbeat. The thorns along its blade seemed to reach toward him, and the starstone beneath began to glow with a faint, welcoming light. Just my imagination, he told himself. Blood loss playing tricks. But the howling was getting closer, and desperation makes believers of us all. The awakening, the first creature burst through the energy barrier like it was made of mist, its 6 legs carrying its bear-sized bulk in an impossible gallop. Behind it came 2 more, their crystalline fangs gleaming in the tomb's ethereal light. Marcus scrambled backward, his hand instinctively reaching for the service pistol that had been lost in the crash. The lead predator's eyes locked onto his, intelligent and hungry. It approached slowly now, savoring the fear it scented. Its pack flanked it, cutting off any escape route. Marcus might have considered. That's when the spear called to him, not with sound, but with something deeper, a resonance that traveled through bone and blood, speaking directly to the part of his mind that had once decided to leave Earth behind and venture into the unknown. The thorns pulsed brighter, and the starstone beneath the weapon began to sing in harmonies that predated human civilization. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered to whatever goddess lay entombed here, "but I think she'd understand." His fingers closed around the spear's shaft, and the world exploded. Power surged through him like liquid lightning, burning away his fatigue and sealing his wounds in seconds. The weapon came free of the starstone with a sound like breaking reality, and suddenly Marcus wasn't just holding it, he was it, an extension of its ancient purpose and terrible will. The predators froze, their predatory confidence evaporating as they sensed something fundamental had changed. The lead creature whimpered and pressed itself against the floor, while its packmates fled through the entrance with panicked howls. But the power wasn't done with him yet. It raced outward from the tomb in visible waves, coursing through the canyon stones and up into the night sky. The very air seemed to crack and reshape itself around him, and Marcus realized with growing horror that whatever he'd just done, the consequences would reach far beyond this forgotten world. The spear's weight felt perfect in his hands, balanced like it had been forged specifically for his grip. Along its length, new markings appeared, not carved, but growing from within the metal itself. They wrapped around his arms like tattoos made of starlight, pulsing in rhythm with his accelerated heartbeat. Through the tomb's entrance, he could see the sky changing. The aurora that had been barely visible before now blazed like a cosmic beacon, its colors shifting through spectrums that human eyes weren't meant to perceive. And in those lights, Marcus caught glimpses of something impossible ships, vast and elegant, turning in orbit to converge on his position, whatever signal. The spear had sent. Someone had been waiting to receive it. Marcus tried to set the weapon down, but it wouldn't release him. The connection was absolute, flowing both ways. Through it, he could sense vast networks of power spanning continents, all awakening at once. Ancient sites stirring to life, dormant technology responding to commands given before Earth's first. Cities rose. The sound of approaching ships grew louder, their engines singing in harmonies that matched the spear's otherworldly song. Marcus found himself standing straighter, the alien weapon lending him strength and confidence he'd never possessed. Whatever was coming for him, whatever he'd accidentally invoked, there was no going back now. The spear had chosen him, and through he'd apparently chosen something or someone in return. The warriors returned. The ships descended like falling stars, their hulls gleaming with the same ethereal light that now coursed through Marcus's veins. They were beautiful organic curves that suggested growth rather than construction, wings that moved like they were alive. As they settled around the canyon in perfect formation, Marcus realized he was about to meet their makers. The largest vessel landed directly before the tomb's entrance, its boarding ramp descending with mechanical precision. What emerged made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin like polished bronze and hair that moved as if underwater, shifting through shades of silver and gold. Her armor was ceremonial rather than practical, decorated with the same symbols that covered the tomb walls. But it was her eyes that held him, molten amber, ancient beyond her apparent years, and fixed on the spear in his hands with an expression of absolute shock. Behind her came a dozen warriors, each impressive in their own right, but none commanding. Attention like their leader. They moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, weapons ready but not yet drawn. Their formation spoke of military precision honed over centuries. The woman, because despite her alien beauty, she was unmistakably female, approached slowly. Her warriors followed at a respectful distance, their expressions shifting from battle readiness to something approaching awe. When she was 10 feet away, she stopped and spoke in a voice like distant thunder. "Release my mother's weapon, grave robber, and your death will be swift." The spear translated her words automatically, filling Marcus's mind with meaning and context. Her mother's weapon. The late queen's final resting place. He'd stumbled into a royal tomb, violated the most sacred site of an entire civilization. Marcus began, then stopped as she truly saw him for the first time. Her amber eyes widened as they traced the markings now covering his arms, the thorns of light that branded him as something more than a simple thief. The spear in his hands pulsed brighter, responding to her proximity, and answering symbols began to glow along her armor. "Impossible," she breathed, her hand moving instinctively to her heart. One of her warriors stepped forward, confusion evident. In his voice, "Princess Zira, what is the meaning of this?" Why do you hesitate? Princess Zyra, the daughter of the warrior whose weapon Marcus held. The irony wasn't lost on him, but there was something else happening here, something the spear was helping him understand through the growing connection between them. The markings on his arms weren't just decorative. They were a contract written in light and blood, a binding that recognized only one authority, the bonding rights of Zyra's people. By awakening the spear, by proving worthy of its power, Marcus had unknowingly invoked the most sacred law of their civilization. Zyra saw it too. The recognition dawned across her features like sunrise, followed immediately by a complex mixture of emotions: disbelief, anger, and something that might have been relief. Without a word, she dropped to one knee. The canyon fell silent except for the whisper of wind through stone. Her warriors stared in stunned incomprehension as their princess, heir to a throne that spanned 12 worlds, knelt before a human grave robber in the ashes of her mother's tomb. "My lady?" The same warrior ventured, his voice careful and confused. Zyra's response carried the weight of absolute law. "He bears the marriage marks. The spear has chosen, and the bloodline responds. By the oldest codes, he is my bonded mate." Marcus felt the truth of it singing through the weapon, a bond that bypassed every rational thought and spoke directly to something primal in both their species. The spear hadn't just called to him, it had called him to her. The sacred bond, the silence stretched until another voice cut through it, older, gravelly with the weight of years and authority. A figure emerged from the second ship, moving with the careful dignity of advanced age, but carrying himself like the veteran warrior he clearly was. Zyra. The name carried both affection and warning. Think carefully before you speak such words. The bonding laws haven't been invoked in 3 centuries. Princess Zyra rose gracefully, but her eyes never left Marcus. "Look at him, Uncle Kelvin. See what I see." The elder approached, his weathered features skeptical until his gaze fell on the markings wrapping Marcus's arms. His expression shifted through several emotions before settling on grim acceptance. "By the sacred thorns," he whispered. "It's true." Marcus found his voice at last. "I don't understand what's happening here. I was just trying to survive." "Survival chose you," Zyra interrupted, stepping closer. The spear hummed between them, its resonance growing stronger with each step she took. "My mother's weapon has slept for 20 years, waiting. It rejected 7 suitors, 3 princes, and 2 champions of the arena. Yet it wakes for a human who speaks our tongue through. Its power." "I don't speak your tongue," Marcus protested, even as the words emerged in perfect translation. "You do now." Her amber eyes held depths he was only beginning to understand. "The spear teaches as it bonds. You know our customs, our laws, our history. All of it flows through you now, doesn't it?" She was right. Knowledge cascaded through his consciousness, the rise and fall of dynasties, the great wars between the inner and outer systems, the sacred bloodlines that traced back to the first queen who united the scattered clans under one banner. And underneath it all, the marriage laws that bound rulers to worthy mates, chosen not by politics, but by the ancient weapons themselves. "This is madness," one of Zyra's warriors muttered. "A human cannot comprehend the sacred." He never finished the sentence. The spear flared, and Marcus moved without conscious thought, the weapon spinning in his hands, to trace a pattern in the air that left trails of burning light. It was a formal challenge in their culture, executed with precision. That spoke of lifetimes of training he'd never received. The warrior stepped back, his hand falling from his weapon's hilt. Around the circle, the others looked to their princess with new understanding in their eyes. "He bears not just the marks," Kelvin observed quietly, "but the knowledge. The spear has made him one of us." Marcus lowered the weapon, disturbed by how natural the movement had felt. "I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I," Zyra replied. But there was something in her voice that suggested she wasn't entirely displeased by the development. The bonding laws exist for a reason. They ensure our leaders mate with those worthy of the responsibility, those chosen by powers greater than personal preference. She gestured to the symbols covering the tomb walls. My mother ruled for 60 years because she was bonded to my father through the spear of thorns. Their connection allowed them to share strength, to think as one mind when necessary. It's how we've survived as a civilization, while others fell to internal strife. And now the spear has chosen you, Kelvin added, studying Marcus with newfound respect. A human, yes, but one proven worthy by the oldest judge of character we possess. Marcus felt the weight of destiny settling around him like a cloak. Through the spear, he could sense Zira's emotion: surprise, uncertainty, but also a growing curiosity about this strange turn of fate. Their bond was still new, fragile, but strengthening with each passing moment. What happens now? He asked. Zira's smile held the promise of adventures he couldn't yet imagine. Now, Marcus Kane of Earth, you learn what it truly means to be chosen by the thorns. The price of destiny. The ceremony took place at dawn, with the twin suns casting long shadows across the sacred canyon. Representatives from 12 worlds had arrived during the night, their ships forming a glittering constellation around the ancient tomb. Marcus stood at the center of it all, wearing armor that had been his bonded mate's father's, feeling simultaneously honored and terrified. Through the spear's connection, he could sense Zira's presence like a warm current in his blood. She stood across from him in robes that seemed woven from starlight itself, her amber eyes reflecting both uncertainty and determination. Neither of them had chosen this path, but both were committed to walking it with honor. High Priest Vathic, ancient even by their long-lived standards, began the ritual words that would formally recognize their bond. The language was older than the written records, carried down through generations of ceremony and tradition. Marcus understood every syllable now, the spear having made him fluent in nuances that most scholars spent lifetimes studying. From chaos comes order, Vathic intoned, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. From accident comes destiny. The thorns have chosen, and we who serve the light must accept their wisdom. The priest gestured to Marcus, who stepped forward as newly implanted memory guided him. Human of Earth, you have awakened that which slept. Do you accept the responsibilities that come with this awakening? Marcus thought of his old life, the quiet surveys of dead worlds, the peaceful isolation of space, the simple problems that had clear solutions. All of that was gone now, replaced by something vast and complex and utterly beyond his previous experience. I accept, he said, and meant it. Princess Zira, daughter of queens, inheritor of the burning crown, Vathic continued. Do you accept this bond forged by powers beyond mortal understanding? For a moment, Zira hesitated. Through their connection, Marcus felt the weight of her doubts, not about him, but about the magnitude of change this represented for both their peoples. And she straightened, every inch the royal she'd been born to be. I accept and welcome the bridge between worlds. The spear flared between them, its light joining with matching illumination from a dozen other weapons held by the assembled nobles. Power cascaded through the canyon, awakening more of the ancient machinery buried in its walls. Overhead, the ship's sensors recorded energy readings that would puzzle scientists for decades to come. Marcus felt the bond solidify, becoming something deeper than mere attraction or political alliance. Through Zira, he gained access to the collective wisdom of her lineage strategies for governing worlds he'd never seen, diplomatic protocols for species he'd only read about, military tactics honed across centuries of warfare and peace. But more than knowledge flowed between them. There was understanding, acceptance, and the beginning of something that might become love given time and nurturing. As the ceremony concluded and the assembled dignitaries began their celebrations, Marcus found himself standing alone with Zira on the tomb's threshold. The spear rested easily in his grip now, no longer fighting his control, but singing in harmony with his heartbeat. "Do you regret it?" Zira asked softly, her hand coming to rest on his arm where the marriage marks still glowed faintly beneath his sleeves. Marcus considered the question seriously. His old life was gone, replaced by responsibilities he was only beginning to understand. There would be challenges ahead, integrating into an alien culture, learning to rule peoples he'd never encountered, dealing with the political implications of a human joining the royal bloodline. But as he looked at Zira, feeling the depth of connection that the spear had forged between them, he found his answer came easily. "No," he said, surprising himself with his certainty. "I think this is exactly where I was meant to be." Above them, the stars beckoned with promises of adventure, and the future stretched ahead like an unwritten story waiting for its heroes. Spear had indeed been cursed to change everything, to transform accident into destiny and strangers into soulmates. Some curses, Marcus reflected, were blessings in disguise.